Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths by Collaboration Global. My name is Jill Tiny, and I'm very excited today to be talking to the one and only Mr. Chris Grimes. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing extremely well. You were in my podcast just 3 days ago, and it was wonderful.
There's a bit of a mutual admiration society going on here, and I think people are going to be thoroughly sick of it by the end of our conversation, but I don't care, because we are having such fun. We are on the same page in so many areas. I'm going to struggle to see if I can find something controversial for you, but I'll do my best and we'll see where it takes us. It's an interesting conversation. So first and foremost, I ask everybody this: what attracted you to the idea of Collaboration Global?
Well, it's the clues in the title of the word, really. As Queen of Collaboration that you are, when I first got introduced to you, you were immediately generous and straight on the reciprocity bandwagon. And my favourite word pertaining to the psychology of influencing is reciprocity. And so I was just very struck with your immediate generosity. And then there was Harold Walter Altman,
yes,
who was another connection. So just a sudden awareness of extraordinary human beings. And I know that your endeavour is to bring, brilliant people together to, hold the space and collaborate. And yes, it's just very exciting. And I'm in several projects at the moment where I'm really hungry for collaboration, because I like helping people too.
Brilliant. I tell you what, the one thing was that attracted me to you is the comedy aspect, because one of the mindsets of Collaboration Global, if you're in a collaboration, is a sense of fun. If you are not enjoying the collaboration, then there's something that's a bit wonky and it's not working. And if you're not having fun, what's the point? And the fact that this is your raison d'etre, this is who you are. Tell us a little bit about why you're a funny man.
Well, Stan Laurel is my all-time comic hero, and so that is like a factory default setting for me. Always has been, because I met him I didn't meet him, but I shocked myself then. I wish I'd met him.
I was like, how old are you? Yeah.
I'm old, but not quite that old. I was 7 years old, living in Uganda, when a black and white TV set hummed into action. On walked Stan Laurel across my screen, and my life was complete, because he just made me smile and be happy to be in the space with. But in a kind, hapless, vulnerable, but really kind way. Even though the comedy of Laurel and Hardy is timelessly brilliant because of how hapless they are. But anyway, I am a drama teacher, actor, and comedy improvisation performer by training and background, and the psychology within comedy improvisation that underpins it all of yes and yes and yes and yes and are the building blocks of creativity, and I put it to us, the building blocks of collaboration as well, as opposed to no but, or yes but, yes but, yes but. It's yes and yes and yes and yes and, which gets the sand out of everybody's gears, and it makes everybody, they should appreciate, because the world is monumentally selfish actually, that it's not all about you. There are other people that can, it's got to be a reciprocal two-way street.
That is one of the things of Collaboration Global, is we always say, bring your ego and leave it at the door, because we don't need that, what we're doing. It really just gets in the way. Did I tell you the story about one guy that came to a meeting and he was sat at the back and he was trying to work out who the ego was in the room, because that was his comedy act. And it's like, I can't work out who the ego is. Says, oh, they're here. They just don't bring it to this meeting.
He had no one to pick on, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean to say we don't have them, and we all they rear their ugly heads. But I like this yes and thing. And having done a bit of improv in the past, many, many years ago, it is quite scary, isn't it? When you've got to
keep it going and keep it going. My daughters have both been on the stage in a drama group that they were in since they were 4, so they don't ever remember not being on stage. And the confidence that that brings is immense. And I look at them
Yes.
and go like, wow, I wish I could be like that. It is, I've spoken on stage, but it's that unknown quantity of being able to switch it on and go with what somebody else has thrown in your direction.
However, it is scary, yes, of course, but it shouldn't be in that. I've said yes, but, which is terrible.
Oh,
Because you've just got to have the ability to be present with an attitude of yes, and you don't have to compete to be funny. You've just got to decide to be present with a yes and mindset and attitude, and then you build scenes or you build comedy together. But it's very much the nature of ensemble comedy improvisation. You know, I have been on stage improvising with stand-up comics who are trying to be the funniest.
oh.
As soon as somebody competes to be funny, it stops being
That's
funny.
ego again, isn't it? It's that ego getting in the way of like, I have to be seen to be the best. And if you just let it go naturally.
And there's no script for life. So actually, if you think about it, we're all doing yes and all the time.
Although in the world that we're in, the society we're in, most people are doing no but, aren't they?
Yes.
They're just negative, judgmental, victim-based. It can be a bit depressing sometimes, isn't it?
Yes.
And when you are around a bunch of people that are yes and, it's like, oh, how can we do that? What can we? All of a sudden, the possibilities start sprinkling open again and again and again and again, and seeing solutions to problems because people have that mindset of like being open, future thinking, seeing their way through.
Yeah. And it's energy as well. It's where energy resides, I think, in positivity, warmth, yes, optimism.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ways to illustrate it in a way you can use the mindset to help you when you're overwhelmed in life, which we all are. You know, if you have an overwhelmed day of, oh gosh, today I've got to, then I've got to, and after that, the got to universe. The antidote is just using the mindset of yes and exchange the O in got with an E. You've got the same workload, but today I get to, and then I get to, and then after that, guess what? I get to. So the get to, as opposed to the got to, actually immediately makes you feel flipping lucky that you get to do all this cool stuff that is a first world problem more often than not.
That is beautiful. That is so simple and yet so true. I can feel it already. Today I had this stack of meetings coming up. And they're all lovely independently, but because they were all together, I'm like, oh, whinge. But you change that, flip that over to get to. How lucky am I? For goodness sake, what was I whinging about? Yeah.
It's reframing your problems to realize that they're gifts in many respects. I mean, I'm not diminishing when, life can be catastrophic, but, it's not how you're knocked over, it's how you get up again. And it helps me at least once a week reminding the reframe of get to as opposed to got to.
Yeah, I was always given that lesson by an 8-year-old who I've now found out yesterday is at university. When did that happen? He was 8 yesterday, but he was at the front of the room at one of our meetings we held, and we had a discussion about something, and somebody said, oh, I'm not very good at doing ABC, and he just pointed at them and he went, yet. And they went, okay. So yeah, I'm not good at the moment. Maybe you're not, but yet. You've still got time. You can still do it. You can still be good at that. Don't worry.
And then that's lovely. Who's the teacher in that moment? That's the growth mindset, looking at the world through the eyes of a child, and it's a reset. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So you've done drama and you do improv and you're into comedy. And who's your comedy hero of the moment?
It will be Michael Palin, actually. And when I first got going with my podcast 5 years ago, I said on episode 1, I haven't asked him yet, and I don't know quite why I haven't, but I'm going to because I've recently interviewed his best friend. And Michael Palin, from Monty Python, is my sort of reinvigoration. Well, it's the sort of not an upgrade, but it's because I couldn't meet Stan Laurel. Michael Palin has a similar kindness and warmth to him.
Yes, he does. That's a really good point. Don't ever tell him he's the next best thing. I mean, he wants.
No. I mean, he's absolutely the one.
I could sit and listen to him for hours. The travel journeys that he's been on and how he describes it's the people thing. He connects really well to people, doesn't he?
Yes, he collaborates. See what we did there?
There we go. Oh dear! I'll bring you back every week. So where do you think it all started from? So let's go back to your life. It's Chris at 7 years of age. and you're maybe playing by yourself, or you may be having something that's like a memory of you having such fun, what were you doing?
Well, I think it goes back to the black and white TV set humming into action, and Stan Laurel walks in at 7.
Yeah.
And then there's a darker side to where my sense of humor always defaults to, was slightly older, wind forward 10 years after the death of my sister. I was the youngest of 3, and my sister was killed in a car accident. And there was this sudden realization of, oh, life is short. But although it's incredibly painful, it was a way of reminding myself that a sense of humor can pull you through. And, even in the darkest times, there are golden threads of light that will pull you through. So, I remember evolving my own way of coping, which is to put a big brick wall up in my head and then take the bricks out gradually and let the light through, and sort of self-healed in that way. But and then it was about life is so short, but not in a frivolous way, although I did do a few frivolous things. But I always default to having a happy disposition, even in dark times.
And do you think that is a nature thing or a nurture thing? Is that something you've created, or do you think that's just your DNA?
I think it's I had a very positive childhood apart from the darkness of that. So I think it's both. I think it's nature, your wiring first and foremost, which obviously is DNA informed. But, if your glass is half empty, half full, whether you're fundamentally optimistic, I've come to learn that I'm fundamentally optimistic. So I think that is just in my nature. In the comedy improvisation company in which I work, there's a wonderful comic foil to me, a lovely woman called Stephanie Weston, who I've worked with for many, many years. If I'm ever seeming a bit down in the mouth or a bit, she always goes, "It just ain't right. It's like the Queen in Lycra." There was just something not right if I haven't got something sort of a way of cutting through it with, something witty to think about or say.
Yeah, it's that when people expect something from you, and this is who you are seen as, and then it doesn't quite fit the picture when you're not actually that buoyant person. Then
Yes.
I can understand that. Queen in Lycra. I'm going to steal that one. That's excellent. Yeah, I can see that.
And sorry, just one other thing. There was a quote in A Dark Time, which was, I was reading a book which is incredibly dark about the cartel at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But in amongst that darkness was this line, "We have to laugh because, as we know, laughter is the first evidence of freedom."
Yes.
So as soon as you can laugh at things again, people go, "Oh, too soon." As soon as you can laugh at something again, it means that you're beginning to recover.
Yeah. And we know that it's the best medicine, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
whether it's a physical ailment or a mental ailment, emotional ailment, it's being able to laugh at yourself or with others.
Yes. And for me, Instant Wit is my comedy improvisation company, and there's a factory default setting in that once or twice a month, I have this great honor and privilege of being able to stand up in front of an audience and generally sort of tit about and make people laugh.
Yeah.
And it's infused with kindness and warmth and just having a good time through ensemble. And actually, it's quintessentially collaboration of itself. I know I've come back to that word again, but it is.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, we've seen a couple of groups out there that it's all improv, and then they go to the audience and they get, a bit like, whose line is it anyway?
Yeah.
And it's just so, you just sit there marveling at how in tune they are with each other.
Yeah.
And how the topics never faze them, and how something comes out and there's a song will be created, or the whole story that comes together, and it's like, whoa, wow, is just so.
And in truth, the technique of yes and yes and yes and means in front of an audience, all you've got to do is just be one beat, one yes and ahead of the audience.
Yeah.
Just one beat, a bit like teaching and one page headmanship.
Yeah.
But if you're one yes and ahead of your audience's speed of thought, and there's no hurry, as long as you're one yes and ahead, they will perceive that you're going at lightning speed.
Yes, this is true. And also, you've been doing it night after night after night after night. So you'll remember that got a really good laugh this audience doesn't know what you said 3 nights ago, so let's do it again.
Oh, no.
Oh, is that not allowed?
No, that is a no, because actually, if you're truly improvising, you don't just sit back on your laurels and rely on old gags.
Right.
Because, life always moves forward.
Yeah.
So people have habits. I know there are certain, there are classic ways to make people laugh. I come on with a hooter at the beginning and get people to sort of stare at my majestic bulb, and then I go into the audience and just getting people to honk on the hooter.
Right.
And then you can say stuff, when someone honks and they don't grab hold of the bulb well enough and it sort of sounds a bit chesty, you can say, well, I'd get that looked at if I were you. And you just go parping your way through the audience.
Lovely.
So there are also instant wit. There's a hilarious pun on instant whip. Instant whip. So we chuck out packets of custard.
Oh, right.
And then tragically, they don't make instant whip anymore. But
wow.
I'm sorry to shock you about that.
Yeah.
But instead, we were in Asda one fateful day and we found something called cock flavour soup. And so you say to the audience, custard or cock flavour soup. So just saying custard or cock makes people giggle.
This is true.
So you just don't, It's not all about ribaldry, but it's just a little bit of just gentle humour. A hooter, a honker, some custard, a bottle of wine for the best suggestion, slapstick.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, I love it. It just, and you come away from those kind of nights, and the adrenaline, the buzz, the fizz, and you go to bed and you're lying there and you think about, and you're still like giggling as you're kind of lying in bed, and it's this medicine that you've just taken.
Yes.
Without any side effects whatsoever, and it keeps the good effect keeps on going and going, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Yes.
So were mum and dad jolly optimists as well?
They were very trailblazing in that they emigrated to Uganda, where I said I saw Stan Laurel. At my age equivalent of 28, my mum and dad emigrated with 3 kids, all under 7, to Uganda. So they were very trailblazing, very optimistic. Their optimism took a humongous dent in a way that I had nothing but respect for after my sister was killed, because it's something you can never recover from. I lost a sibling, which is of itself deeply tragic.
Yeah.
But now I'm a parent, I know the difference in losing a child. It's differently seismically tragic. Yeah. So it caused a bit of a sort of desiccation to my parents, if I'm brutally honest about it, because they, a major reason for being had been removed. And so although my dad died just a few months ago in last August at the age of 87.
Wow.
He's really in my path of what I'm doing, because I'm doing my podcast new series strand called Legacy Life Reflections, to record the story of somebody near, dear or close to you for posterity. But my dad was my first ever guinea pig 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Before he slipped into a crater of declining health. He knew exactly what I was doing. I was using him as a guinea pig to say, look, I need to try this out, because none of us are getting out of here alive. I wasn't saying that to him, but I, with hindsight, I did definitely get him, lest we forget before it's too late, in the halcyon days of his 80s. And I was able to use the gift of storytelling to curate a wonderful life story. And it's the same curated structure of the Good Listening To show that you yourself guested it a few days ago.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it is something that is very special. There are a lot of people out there that they might have done their YouTube videos and they might have been famous for the 15 minutes or whatever, but having that kind of conversation with the questions that you pose so beautifully, that kind of makes you go, why did I do that, and what is that all about? It really tips your life upside down so that you can see it from a different perspective and join some of the dots that you didn't realize was even there.
Yes.
By having that opportunity to talk.
And talking about joining the dots, all my life it emanates from this energetic space, which comedy improvisation belongs in as well, and is the energetic hub of the podcast. It's called The Clearing, which is an empty space brimming and charged with potential where anything is possible. Going back to my acting, theatre training, the first ever theatre book was called The Empty Space by Peter Brook. It's this idea of stepping into an empty space where anything is possible. If you add to that an attitude of yes and, it's also my coaching headspace when I'm working as a facilitator and a coach, because it's it's a place where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to get told. And so I now realize, with the gift of everything that's come to bear, that all my work emanates from this very positive, energetic hub called the clearing.
I love it. I love it. We kind of do that at our meetings as well, at Collaboration Global, because everyone comes to a Zoom meeting quite often off the back of another Zoom meeting, or they've done this and they're busy, 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 and their brains are going. They're like, okay, come on, entertain me. What's this about? I don't know why I'm here. What's this meeting about? And we do a little meditation, and it's usually facilitated by one of our members. So Alessandro does a qigong. We've got Jennifer, she does some tapping, and it just gives people an opportunity to be grounded.
Yes.
So that they've got 2 minutes, 3 minutes just to go.
Yes, to airlock. Yeah.
It gives them that space to go, the next 2 hours is for me. I'm going to take what I want from it, and it's going to be special, and I'm going to meet some amazing people, and I'm going to have fun.
Yes.
And that's the kind of space. So what you're talking about, that clearing, and in a positive, empowered, optimistic space, then the possibilities do just start bubbling up. It's
Yes.
the connections are amazing. I like that. It's having that clearing, and we all need that space, don't we? That life is too busy. Life just so crazy.
And the other resonance with collaborating there is the idea of the clearing being where the gathering of the clans. So it's where the clearing, when you've gone through the thickets and you end up in the clearing.
Yes.
We've arrived. There was a very funny story recently about lateness. About, when you're running and facilitating an event and you say to the audience before they go off for a break, that apparently in ancient Gaulish times, all of the tribes that were not under the cosh of the Romans would gather once a year in the clearing of choice. It could be in Hispania, it could be in ancient Gaul, it could be Britannia. They'd all agree, and then the comedy was whoever trotted into the clearing last. No excuses. Whoever trotted in last, irrespective of their tribe, rank, who they were, whoever, here they come, trots in last, would volunteer for self-sacrifice. It's slightly comic, but you think, if you try and say, sorry, my chariot had a puncture, or my dog ate me homework, none of that. You go, here he is, string him up or string her up. So yes, it was just a good way to haplessly choose. That's a bit dark, I know, but
no, but also I can see that at a conference or something when you're desperately trying to get people back so you can get the speaker on. It's like, right, if you're the last one in, you're up on stage.
Well, the comedy thing is you can then get the whole conference to just notice who comes in last, and there they are after supper. They're going on the spit roast.
I used to do that a little bit as a teacher. If I was teaching to the class, and I've done this to adults as well, when there's somebody there that's talking while you're talking, so you kind of just stop and wait for them to stop talking. And there's this guy who was quite high profile, and he was having a little natter in the corner, and I stopped, and he's like, and eventually he realized that the whole room was waiting for him, and he's like, what's your problem? What's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. Can I carry on now? And he just so he became very humble after that. But yeah, it's that pointing you out as that without saying a word. It's like,
it's comic, not the important thing is at a conference setting, it's not humiliating, it's just comic, but it makes everyone have a little bit of a spring in their step of, I don't want to be the last one. So
I like that. Well, you learn something new every day. Thank you, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Didn't realize the Gauls were quite so Gaulish, but yeah. So when did you come back from Uganda, and did you choose to come to the UK or?
Well, I was 10, so having gone to Uganda at the age of 2.5, how flippin' independent is that? But I did explain I was with my parents. But actually, historically, we came back after Idi Amin overthrew Milton Obote. So it's 1972 we came back after about 9 months of the Idi Amin regime. And it was the July, August of the year in which I was about to be 10.
Right. We're on the same page. We'll probably be picking up her pension at the same time. Just doing a quick bit of maths there. So
I'm 62 if you're fishing, but
me too.
62 and 62 is because that's the year.
I'm 62 and 63. So no, you beat me. So did you go back home to the UK to family, or was it like another adventure of let's try something completely new?
My parents are from Middlesbrough, up north originally. My mum's dad was a train driver, and my Dad's dad was a steel worker. So Dad achieved a bit of social mobility through, he was the first of his generations to go to university. So he went to Keele University, and one of his famous things is he danced the night away with Princess Margaret as head of the Ball Society. That was one of the facts about Dad. But anyway, they went back to Middlesbrough initially because we had a house that they had rented. You know, they sublet whilst they were in Redcar, and I was born in Saltburn, which is when you're doing mappy stuff.
I've been there. Yeah.
Anyway, so and then we moved to various other places, but I ended up for my 11 to 19 period, I was in Southend-on-Sea.
Oh, I see. Hence the accent. Sort of.
My parents had a knack, because of just life circumstances, of always moving. At the end of junior school, we moved. At the end of my secondary school, we moved. So my parents now live Mum now lives in Leicestershire, but I have no affinity for it apart from the fact she's there, because I'd gone to university by the time Mum and Dad moved to Leicester.
And where was your uni?
I went to the Central School of Screech and Trauma in London.
Of course you did, yes.
Which is my teaching degree. And then I'm in Bristol now because I then did a 2-year postgraduate acting course at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, which is why I now operate as an actor, teacher, facilitator, coach, now podcaster. So, and in fact now, thanks to the pandemic and a chance meeting, I'm now a motivational comedian, which is the catch-all.
Wow. And
there's a really, if you'd allow me to tell it, there's a lovely story about why Chris Grimes is called a motivational comedian.
Go for it, yeah.
If you're ever exploring personal brand for yourself, you need to be aware of something called your operator word, something you say about what you do that makes people say, wait, what?
Yeah.
And in my case, if I say I'm a comedian, that's fine, ha ha ha. But if I say I'm a motivational comedian, people go, wait, what? Other examples that are not related to comedy. I heard a really good story of somebody who works as an osteopath. But his operator word is, I'm a preventative osteopath. In other words, if you pay me, you'll never have to, because I'll fix it. Yeah. So anyway, motivational comedian for me came about because during the pandemic, I was on a bike ride and I arrived in a clearing. See what I'm doing there? I stopped, and then a friend called Ben, who I hadn't seen since before the pandemic, arrived on our bikes.
Yeah.
His son, who used to be way high, was suddenly a man mountain in the background while two dads exchanged surviving the zombie apocalypse, so far. and the kid was big, and I did all that classic, oh, blimey, you've got all that really stupid, lame stuff that grown-ups say when they see a kid that's a man. Oh, you've grown. Anyway, the son, Dan, hangs out in the background, and then we exchanged stories, and then they were just about to squeak off, and I was still in earshot, and it could have been awkward because I don't know what was about to be said, but I could still hear the guy, Ben, his son, Dan, said, who was that? And Ben said, well, that's Chris Grimes. And he said, well, what does he do then? And then Ben said, oh, he's a motivational comedian. And then they squeaked off. And then I stayed still going,
love it. Is that what I am?
Boom, I'll have that. Yeah. So ever since then, that was, from now on, it's on my business card, and I'm coach, facilitator, motivational comedian. Go me.
That's a long, do we give out business cards anymore? I don't know.
Well, I think you do if there's a QR code attached now.
Ah, right. That makes...
but actually, snail mail is coming back in because we've got so digital. With the podcast that I'm doing, because I award people with a cake at the end of it. I've just had a fantastic meeting about 2 weeks ago with somebody called Anna's Cakes. Guess what she makes? And when you've told me what cake you like in the show, it's coming. I'm going to be sending you a cake. So, because it's all based in the clearing, when you get the cake, that delights people because you get nom 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 a carrot cake or chocolate, in the post. And then get this, you get to take a second cut through the clearing.
Oh.
As you nom nom nom. So it's just a way of using snail mail, or it's called lumpy mail.
Yeah.
I had a brilliant story about how using lumpy mail, I don't know if you heard this, it's where someone literally delivered loads of white Wellington boots with black marker as to why they're getting in touch, saying to people, this is my way of getting my foot in the door. And what was really clever was someone who was about to make multi-million pound contracts because his business can fix concrete in tunnels by being able to scan it in a way, and he couldn't get interviews, and yet it's saving the entities like Railtrack and Eurotunnel. It's saving them millions. And this bloke, apparently, it's an apocryphal story. Well, sorry, it's a true story. It was a big clodding white Wellington boot that you'd suddenly find on your desk.
Yeah.
And of course, that's going to make you notice, rather than sending an email to say, would you like me to fix your concrete?
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes such sense. And also a handwritten something or other, as the very least, is much more personal. And a little card, when somebody sends me a little card to say, thank you so much, that meeting was brilliant, or that happened, it's like, oh, and you keep it and you leave it there. You don't get rid of it. And it just reminds you of them every time you look at it. Look at that. I've got one now. There we go. That's one, somebody saying thank you very much, and a little note inside. It's I think snail mail is definitely should be coming back into fashion. I think that's
so. There may be cakes flying out. I mean, Anna's cake's clever because she's already got the infrastructure to post cakes. But with the legacy life reflections, when you've recorded your story or the story of that precious person, there's going to be a gift set which presents you with the transcript, the actual podcast episode, how to upload it to the all that shebang.
Don't forget to check if they're gluten-free. That's all I'd say.
I mean, people can you've got to treat them as grown-ups, I suppose, to sort their own analogies out. Because if you just send everyone who's allergic to nuts a cake, that's not going to be good, is it really?
No, exactly. I love this motivational comedian, though. It's what you overhear from other people can be quite insightful, can't it? I remember being at a huge event once, and I heard my name mentioned, so you kind of go like that. And they were saying, oh, Jill, you need to talk to Jill. She's the one that knows loads of people. She'll connect you up with the right person. And I was like, oh, is that what I do? I thought everybody did that. Apparently they don't. And it's really interesting how people view you. And I think we were talking about this one a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago at Collaboration Global Members meeting, is what do people think about you after you've left the room? What do they say? What are you leaving them with? Talking about legacy and what you'd like to be remembered for. It's like instantly, if you've just left the room, what are they going to be saying about you? Yes, you want to know it's good things, but actually you want to have inspired them or to get them to move into action or say something.
And the yes and that I have to build on that is personal impact. My Chris Grimes opinion about what personal impact is, it's the afterburn of you. And to your obvious point, say I agree with you completely. When you've left the room, people are either thinking good things, bad things, or nothing at all about you. Yeah. So your afterburn is really important.
Yeah, I did a lot of networking back in the day, and I would go around training people how to network. And so you're not talking to people for the sake of telling them what you do. You're being memorable and making connections, so they're going to want to talk to you again. So if they think about, who is that woman that I was talking to? What was she about? So it's what can you do to be memorable?
Yes.
And there's a gazillion things I've done, from dressing up as a fairy to being Inspector Clouseau, to saying when I had laryngitis, talking to a room of people, listen very carefully, I will say this only once. And and I had the most rapt attention. They were all just leaning forward so they could hear what I had to say, just because I had a sore throat.
Yes. If you've got it, flaunt it, use it. That's all good. Yes.
Yeah. And I met somebody this morning, funny enough, who said, so somebody had introduced us, and I'd not met this other guy before. And as minute I spoke to him, he said, you need to talk to Paul. I was like, okay. So he set us up. And Paul then said, not only did I know your name from this guy that's spoken, he's spoken about you before. Okay. He said, but I think we've met each other before that. Right. So he said, my director of the board is told me about you. Oh, great. He said, but even then I knew more about you. And I don't know where I know you from. So we went back and back. About 20 years ago, he remembers me from his networking days.
Whoa. That's an afterburn right there of 20 years, please.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But it's like, oh, I'm a bit famous, a little bit famous.
My dad, sorry to riff on about him again, but he had a very similar, an equivalent story of an afterburn lasting almost a lifetime. Gosh. When he was 79, 80, and he'd left Uganda 40 years ago, a man got in touch with him, I think just reassured he was still alive, going, oh, Colin Grimes, you're still there. This is John Kotzel, he said. I wanted to say hello. And what he said was, when I first came to Uganda for my first day at school teaching Shakespeare to Ugandan children, I remember being incredibly nervous. And I wanted to say thank you, Colin, because I went to see you and somebody said to me, go and see Colin Grimes. He'll give you some teaching notes that will help. And what I wanted to say thank you for, Colin Grimes, was I used those teaching notes in some shape or form for the rest of my career.
Whoa. Oh, how lovely is that?
And I was riffing. My dad didn't appreciate what a profound afterburn that is, because that's an entire lifetime, a
Yeah.
whole career based on one set of notes.
And that is one of the reasons that our sessions where we acknowledge people for what they've said, because sometimes you can say a throwaway remark and for somebody else it's been like a lifetime revelation.
Epiphany. Yeah.
And if you don't share that at the time, that person will leave not ever knowing how much impact they've had on your life. So
Yes.
we always kind of have a gratitude space of like, you know, what did you hear today that's going to be useful, and
Yes.
who do you want to thank for it?
Yes.
And there's nothing better than being grateful when someone's done something not lovely for you. You just want to give them a hug and say thank you, don't you? And it can have so many repercussions. But I met one guy once that said it's good for his health. He says he tries to have 100 hugs a day because it's good for his health. He said, I've got it on prescription. So he goes to a lot of big events and he's just walking around hugging everyone. And most people are like, what are you doing?
His afterburn, he's a bit needy.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of get that. If you're living on your own, I knew one guy once said, he lived on his own. He said, nobody's physically touched me for about 6 months. And I was like, oh, give me a hug quick. Oh, you poor man. And if you live on your own and you're kind of seen as I don't know, if you're shy and you're an introvert and you're not great at conversation, then the physical touch is going to be a lot further away.
That's so profound. In fact, that's what I feel the most about my mum at the moment. And I'm 3 hours away, and I keep needing to return because I just get this instinct that she needs a hug, basically, because she's been incredibly, you know, she's 87 too, but you know, being incredibly stoic and on the case. But obviously, you know, my mum and dad met at my dad's 14th birthday party.
Oh, how
and so it goes that far, you know, goes that far back.
I feel I want to jump in the car and go and visit her now. Because I'm the same. I was 14 when I met my now husband, and he was 18, and we were going instantly from that moment on. And our daughters think that's disgusting, which, you know, it was a different time. But yeah, I was very grown up for my age, shall we say. And the thought of not being with him when he is my right-hand man just doesn't bear thinking about. So if she's been that long with your dad and had amazing adventures as well and had amazing sorrow, she presumably she got friends around there that she can go and talk to and share.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the main reasons she'll probably stay where she is, because there's an infrastructure you can't overestimate. Sorry, is it underestimate? You can't underestimate how important it is.
Yeah.
Overestimate. Over.
Yeah. It's very important.
It's important to stay there. Because if you just rent someone asunder and take them where you think they might want to go, they'll end up totally detached from everything that's familiar.
Yeah, indeed.
I'll commit. It's you can't overestimate, I think.
Does she do technology?
Not really. One of the things I'm regularly trying to do is help her to reset her TV settings, but remotely, while she tries to show me online. You know, she tries to use her phone to show me, which is very technologically savvy, but I end up either looking up her nose or under a cupboard, and I'm not able to say that's the cable that. Anyway, I shall be going to visit again soon for hugs and cable removal.
Good, well done. That's brilliant. It is hard when you become that carer parent, isn't it? The child becomes the carer of the parent. Both my parents are now dead, and that was that period of looking after them and realizing that you had to become the grown-up, and all the little things where you go into the room and you can instantly be that teenager again when they say something and you're like, oh, mum, you know, but you can't. You have to be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Tell me for the 11th time that that's what's going on. And you kind of realize, I remember one time we went around there, eventually she moved closer to us so we could go and look after her. And I popped around to do her some tea. Oh, I'm not hungry. I don't want anything. I'm here now. I've just moved heaven and earth to be here so I can come and cook you. What do you fancy? And going through the cupboards and, oh, I'm not really hungry. I said, what about egg on toast? I'll just do you a little supper, a little egg on toast. She went, all right then. Well, let me tell you how I cook it. I'm like, no, I'm a grown-up. I'm going to cook you egg on toast. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So anyway, did it. She ate the lot. She loved it. She said it was the best egg on toast she'd ever tasted. When I do it, it tastes like a bullet. So why are you telling me how you do egg on toast? I don't know.
Yes.
You have to be the grown-up sometimes. Love her. Oh dear. So where are we at now? What is your vision for the future for your wonderful legacy podcast? Where do you see that?
What a lovely question. My dream with it is to be a digital nomad because of the age that I am, and be able to just plug into the internet wherever I decide to be.
Yeah.
And as long as the internet is a miracle. I mean, even this we're talking now with geographies that are disparate, and it could be anywhere in the world. But I'd like to be a digital nomad where, very modestly, 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, even that might be too much, but I genuinely help people through curating their life story, their life journey, or their business story there, because I have very many series strands to the good listening to show.com. One is called Brand Strand Founder Stories. Legacy Life Reflections is one of the series strands. But yes, short answer is I'd like to be a digital nomad where I can genuinely help people, but also earn enough to be a bit of a pension plan that just pays a little bit of pin money to be able to be onto the next adventure.
Yeah. And what would be your biggest adventure?
More travel, I think. I've traveled a lot, but it would just be really nice to go and be a digital nomad in, hey, let's be in New York, or let's go back to Kampala, or just go and the Italian hills. I'd love to go and live. I read the Cicero trilogy by Robert Harris. I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't read them, but I've heard of them. Yeah.
There's such a lovely sort of bolt hole retreat that Cicero goes to in the Italian hills somewhere. I'm not quite sure exactly where it is, but I'll revisit the book. And so, yes, it's to just go and be in places like Mallorca, Italy, and just be in beautiful places for 2-3 months at a time, and just plug into the Wi-Fi.
Oh, that sounds like heaven. It's getting to know the locals as well. I love sort of interacting with them and finding out how they live their lives. And every time we go somewhere, we try and learn a teensy bit of the language, and then you end up having friends. We've had people that we've met in New York City that we've got their phone numbers, and if we go over there, we'll still use the same taxi driver and all those kind of things. And it's just how other people have lived their life while you're in your little corner doing your thing, and then right the other side of the world, it's like, wow, this is, if only I'd known, I'd have come here sooner. It's I love that understanding of other people. One of the things I
need a chunk of water, by the way. You had a
yes, I had a little frog in the throat there. Hang on. I am talking about travel. What I would love to do, one of my dreams, is a world tour for Collaboration Global, and wherever there is a member, to go over to where they are and put an event on and tell more people about Collaboration Global, and then go around. So if you fancy coming with me, hold my handbag or something, that would be really cool.
Around the world, we'll do a Jules Verne, around the world in 80 days. And presumably the clues in the title, it is global then. So are you covering all continents with Collaboration Global?
Apart from Antarctica, yeah. We have somebody on every continent. We've got Malaysia, we've got South America, we've got India, a lot of UK, Europe. Somebody in Australia is contemplating joining, which would be tricky because I think they'd have to be an insomniac, because a lot of our meetings are the wrong time of day. But we do have 2 that they could come to, so that would be okay.
That's good. Collaboration Global, we're turning night into day by also introducing Collaboration Global in Australia.
Yeah.
Good day, mate. Well, actually, it's the night for me.
Well, this is it. He came to one of our meetings. It was like 3 a.m. So, and the lady that we got as a member over in Malaysia, in KL, she'll stay up till 11 o'clock, and it finishes at 1 a.m. for her. But God bless her. She gets what collaboration is about, and a lot of people go, oh yeah, I do collaboration, but it's all the transactional kind of what's in it for me and what's in it for you, and how we're going to do it. And quite often those are the clunky ones that take a little bit of effort, and I just want to have fun.
And how big is the squad if the full tribe gathers and we string the last one up for being late?
I like that idea. Well, overall, we're only about 60 people, roughly. But there are a lot of members who have vast networks. So, for example, if we went to New York, Jonathan Rosen has a network that's probably several hundred people he could call on to come and join us and say hello. And I've met a lot of them online as well, which is lovely. Yes. I've got a guy down in Florida who runs the Love Foundation. Cool name. And he has contacts all over the world as well. So it's like the people they know, I'd like to meet their friends and their connections as well, which would be nice to share the purpose of Collaboration Global, and then
Yes.
using the sort of things that you do and the legacy. I think a lot of people, boomers for sure, but a lot of younger generation are not only out to make money in their businesses, they're out to make a difference.
Yes.
They're out to support a particular cause or something that's close to their heart, or they're using their business. I know one lady, she had been sex trafficked herself, so she had built a property business, and a certain amount of that profit from that property business goes into supporting young women to come out of that situation and be protected and get careers of their own.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, how would you, there is a new school of thought that's emerging since the pandemic, where people realize that the way the world is working isn't actually working. I don't know if you read the news, watch the news or read the newspapers, but it's a bit depressing.
Yes.
To say the least.
It is broken. Yes.
Yeah. So it's understanding what you are sharing. And that's why probably you're attracted to Collaboration Global, because there is a wealth of what you do fits in so beautifully to what our members are doing. And it's leaving that legacy, but also demonstrating it. So how many people indulge themselves by having that podcast where they can actually share who they are at such a depth that actually that's a little microcosm that then demonstrates perfectly what their business is about, what their mission is about, and what their purpose is in life. So there's a lot of marrying up going on, I think, along the way.
A marinade. I was thinking of the word marinade as you said that. I don't know why.
Yeah, and who knows where it can take us. There's this open-ended clearing of, you know, what's going to come in. We don't know. Yes. And it could be absolutely beautiful. If somebody's listening to you now, Chris, and has thought, motivational comedian, I could do with that. Maybe some of the other stuff, you know, improvisation, I've always wanted to do that. What are the sorts of things that you have on offer that people could kind of connect up with you?
Well, communication skills, training, coaching, and facilitation is the way that it transmits for what I call income stream number one. How I make most of my money historically is to become as a facilitator and a coach. So I teach and coach on things like presentation skills, personal impact, influencing, networking, executive presence. You know, I support senior leadership teams with purpose, imperatives. So all that stuff is through a company called secondcurve.uk.
Right.
And then, but I still use all the transferable skills of being a drama teacher, actor, and comedy improvisation performer. And it's those transferable skills of doing those things that I bring to the clearing in that imperative. So that's that. But then Instant Wit is the comedy improvisation company. And then my really exciting passion project now is all things thegoodlisteningtoshow.com, which is where my true bringing to the fore as a motivational comedian. And it's called The Good Listening To Show because I just love giving people a damn good listening to. And then what's really exciting is Legacy Life Reflections, which has been a golden nugget within the mountainscape of The Good Listening To Show all along. But I've only this year dug up that gold, put it on its own plinth. And so very, very excitingly, the thing I'd most like to point people to is legacylifereflections.com, because it is a way of effortlessly, creatively, and kindly capturing, without any morbid intention, the story of somebody near, dear, or close to you. You know, your mum, your dad, your grandmother, your grandfather, your Aunt Fanny, whoever, in a way that's curating them through a journey that's been likened to having a day spa for your brain. And so it's a real privilege to do, but it's also genuinely helping people. And so I'm really excited. And then there's cake at the end of it. So
what's not to like?
Everyone's a winner, chicken dinner. So yes, legacylifereflections.com is the most exciting thing to look at.
It just crossed my mind. I'm all about people getting all their life and passion and purpose into a book. But it crossed my mind that you could do this damn good listening to for people who are 21 to kind of mark this is where they are in their life now, and then maybe 40, and then maybe 70. And then you've got the kind of book of their life without them having to sit down and write it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, curating them, because your life's not over until it's over, and we're always spinning narrative. And so it's fascinating to think about. I mean, the guests over the years have been lots of different ages. But there is something about looking over your shoulder to join the dots up backwards. But
Yeah.
what's really exciting is to project to where you'd like to see yourself.
Yeah, and just your understanding of the world, understanding, the politics of the world, or the economics of the world, or the, all the things that are going on in that moment in time have an impact on who you are at that
Yes.
time. And then to be able to be your 40-year-old self listening back to your 21-year-old self going, oh, I knew nothing.
I mean,
And then
there is a question within it, which is with the beauty and the gift of hindsight, what notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of yourself? Guests can choose where they would position that holographic reappearance to give yourself that advice. But also, if people are struggling with how to write their life story, this can really get them on the open road of following a lot of storytelling archetypes and analogy and metaphor through the structure of the clearing, the tree, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
The alchemy, the gold, the couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, a golden baton and a cake.
You've done this more than once, I can tell. It is a beautiful way of pulling it all together, and I really enjoyed it. I thank you for inviting me to do it. And anybody that's thinking of it, considering it, please get in touch with Chris, because it's quite a unique experience. I've not come across anything like that before, and it is a bit like a spa in as much as you feel very pampered and very cosseted to be spending time talking about yourself. How often do we do that? Unless you're down the pub and everyone else has stopped listening by then anyway. So
it's also going into that sort of slight helpful point of you can get a ghostwriter, you can try and write a book, and it'll take months, maybe it'll take years, maybe you'll get stuck. But this is a way of just taking 2 hours of your life to preserve that precious life forever.
Yeah, indeed. And if you want to be really, I don't know if it's clever or not, but you could run it through AI and then say make it longer and see what comes out the other end, the sausage machine. No, don't.
I had a conversation just yesterday where someone said, you could AI for this. I was thinking, I could AI-ify it? Yes. And he's thinking of helping me turn my father into an avatar that I can keep speaking to.
Oh my goodness.
Which was fascinating, because I did hear, I mean, it's curious. I mean, because my dad knew what I was doing. I would be interested to see what that would be possible without it being spooky or morbid.
Yeah.
Because I also heard recently that Michael Parkinson is going to be doing a podcast.
He's doing
and
it.
At the time, I thought, that's weird. In the competitive world of podcasting, I'm now not seeing dead people, but competing with dead people.
Yeah, but it's been done by his son, who didn't want to do it from the morbid perspective. It is about understanding how Michael interviewed people.
Yes.
And kind of seeing that journey and then replicating that with him, with his voice.
Yes. Have you seen it then, or heard it?
I have heard some clips, because Richard Osman on his podcast, The Rest is Entertainment, did a special on this, because he's friends with Mike Parkinson. So he shared a clip about it, and he said originally he thought, can't be doing with that. I miss Michael Parkinson, that wouldn't be fair. But because he was friends with his son, he was like, oh, there's that reason behind it.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so now I'll listen. He said, and then it was like, oh right, there's a study behind it. There's a science being done alongside what they're doing. It's not just for the goths to enjoy.
Yes.
That wouldn't do that. Sorry, I'll take that back. It's fascinating. And I was interviewed recently by Bordy, who's on LinkedIn, and he sounds like Hugh Jackman. So it was an AI interviewing me about Collaboration Global, and it was weird, but it didn't take long for me to forget, or almost forget, that it was AI.
Yes. Off the back of me hearing that from you, I did get in touch with Bordy, and they keep promising to ring me back, but they haven't yet. So I'll have that experience, I think, soon.
So one of our members can get you straight in. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it after the podcast. Sure. That's how I got in through one of the members, and it was just a really interesting experience. But bearing in mind, most AI that we are coming in contact with every day was developed about 10 years ago. So there is stuff that is current, that is being developed, that we've never seen, that is spookily realistic. And
and we know there's a dark side to that as well, with there's definitely a dark web side to it all as well.
Yes, indeed. And ultimately I just see AI as extending the pandemic of loneliness that our world has. which is not good for our mental health or for many other reasons as well. So let's not end on a down note. This is not good. I was just about to wrap it all up and we went down a spooky hole then. Let's not do that. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way for them to find you, Chris?
Thank you. So on LinkedIn is the best way. So Chris Grimes, Motivational Comedian, is there on LinkedIn. And then, as I said, the websites are secondcurve.uk, but the more exciting ones are the Good Listening To. You can tell I'm trying to pivot, can't you? It's the goodlisteningtoshow.com and legacylifereflections.com.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's always good to pivot, but people need to sort of have it explore, don't they? And do a little bit of stalking to see what you're about before they usually get in touch at some point.
So my son asked ChatGPT who's Chris Grimes recently, and it came up with quite a good answer, actually. I was a bit shocked. So you can ChatGPT Chris Grimes and see what that comes up.
Interesting. Sure it was the right Chris Grimes? Because there's a few...
Well, I thought he sounds impressive. Who's that? Oh,
it's you. Brilliant. And of course, if you want to meet Chris, he should be coming along to some of our Collaboration Global meetings very soon, because he's a brand new member and we're looking forward to having him present to us as well. You don't worry, you don't have to do a whole comedy sketch. It's more about what you do rather than who you're being. No, it's who you're being rather than what you do. Yeah. I'm going to stop talking now and go and get my glass of vino because it's that time of day. The sun is over the garden, I think.
Yes, I think it is. Yes, marvellous.
Thank you so much, Chris, for being a guest. It's been such a joy. I'm sure we will do more of these along the way and hopefully see you at a CoGlo meeting soon. And if you want to come to a Collaboration Global meeting, don't forget you can go to the website collaborationglobal.org and you can book in there. They're online. We have 2 guest meetings a month. Or you can go to Eventbrite and find us there, or find me, Jill Tiny, on LinkedIn, and we can have a chat there as well. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta indeed.